Who's the champ of foolish fame? Let's crown the buffoon of the week by name. Comic crown and a goofy streak. The title goes to our champ this week.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else in between classes back in session, welcome to Buffoonology 101. Gene Baradelli and Ross Galloway here with you. Ross, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Nothing much, man. Getting ready for the summer.
Yeah, normally like a class or whatever would end and there'd be a summer break. We're going to be going through the summer and keeping up with Buffoonology 101. It's only one day a week. Suck it up. You guys can do it. But the channel will be going on a little more of a summer schedule, especially when it comes to some of the videos earlier in the week. So, yeah, summer schedule for me, but for Buffoonology 101, we're going to keep on rocking and rolling. We'll just give everybody more credits towards their degree in Buffoonology.
I was going to say, Gene, summer schedule, it's only going to affect you because I'm not sure I could do any less.
That's funny. Yeah.
Well, let me say this, and I mean this with all due respect. It's not that you don't pull your weight around here. You certainly do. You just volunteered me to do the bells, the whistles, the editing, the recording, the promoting, the posting, the blog posting. And I want to just say thank you for volunteering me for all of those things that we need to get done.
In all fairness, Gene, for the first 3 or 4 episodes, I didn't even know we were doing a show. I thought we were just having like a Zoom call with each other.
Well, that would explain why I jumped out to a 3-0 lead here. For those of you who don't know, Buffoonology 101 is part, conversation, part game show, part just polititainment with you guys out there in the audience in choosing each week's Buffoon of the Week. After all, that's the name of the channel that we have here. So this is going into our 10th battle between us. And just to recap how we're doing from last week, I'm happy. I don't know if Galloway's happy because your boy got 2 in a row now. One more, and it's called a winning streak. Last week, it was a battle of California buffoons between my choice and the eventual winner of all this, Maxine Waters, and Galloway's Gavin Newsom pick. It was closer than most of these battles. It was about a 60-40 split, with one write-in going towards Alex Padilla, who came in after the cutoff for the competition. I think if we were recorded a little later in the week, Padilla would have been someone's pick for sure. But it looks like we're seeing a split between different social media platforms, as YouTube had record turnout, but it was split virtually 50-50 with Galloway getting the slight edge, and X going for Maxine Waters and me at a 2-1 clip.
Now, I didn't know this, Gene, by the way, until we were just talking briefly before we started recording. So YouTube, very close. I had a slight lead. And then I found out that the X account that we're using to tabulate votes is Gene's personal X account. Oh, really?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. No, there's no advantage there. There's no inside track there. Your followers are voting for you.
Fucking game's rigged.
All right.
Oh, no. You misunderstand. It's not about followers. It's about the reach of the account. My account is bigger than the Buffoon of the Week account. And because people can only vote once there anyway, it turns out that it's a pretty secure way to do it. So greater reach, pretty secure. It's open to the public to vote. It's not just my friends, who also happen to be your friends, by the way, because people know we travel in tandem here. And it is certainly what your moles are finding out there. Shout out to a certain one that I know that shows up often. According to them, they're getting their information wrong, man. You got to get better sources.
Fuck your couch. Buy another one, you rich motherfucker. Fuck your couch. Fuck your couch.
If Elon happens to come across this podcast here, unban me, bro. I need to be back on X. I'm still banned.
Yeah, we need to get that taken care of. Or you just need to make a new account, Mr. Ross Galloway. But while we're thinking about how to straighten that out, and we're getting ready for the new battle of buffoons, let's give everybody the rules who maybe haven't been here before, explaining this wacky game show / information show / stupidity that we call Buffoonology 101. Before the show, Ross and I have each selected our nominee to present to you for Buffoon of the Week. Each host will have 5 minutes to make their case to you as to why their nominee should earn your vote. The first 2 minutes will be uninterrupted by the other host, but after that, it's a free-for-all between the two discussing the nomination. The opposing host will then evaluate the nominee based on the criteria set forth in my award-winning best-selling book, Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores.
This guy is a grifter!
The nominee will then be given a score for buffoonish nature and buffoonish action magnitude on our Sharpton Buffoonery Matrix, but more on that later. After that, we do it all over again for the other nominee. After all the nominees have been weighed and measured, each host will then have 1 minute to plead and beg for your vote for Buffoon of the Week. You'll get to vote online in the comments and on social media and at buffoonoftheweek.com. Vote early and vote often. No one's going to be counting whether you voted more than once. And now, back to the action. So here we are again. I'm up by 3. I got I'm matching my biggest lead at all times. At no point, by the way, has Ross Galloway been in the lead. Just want to point that out. Just saying. And it's probably going to be a month before he even has a shot to do that. Just saying. But I'm currently in control of the board, and I have the right to choose whether I'm going to go first or second. And I'm breaking with tradition. Ross Galloway is going to go first.
Yes. I was hoping you were going to do that, Gene, because my pick this week is fire. Gene, I have a pick this week, brother. I am going to break the 11th commandment, and I'm going to nominate one of our own. You actually know this man quite well. If I'm not mistaken, you interviewed him once upon a time, and he follows you on X. I wonder who he's going to vote for this week. And by the way, this person is one of my favorite people. I was a supporter of his back in 2015, 2016 when he was running for president. He's a Republican, and his name is Senator Ted Cruz. Shocker. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, let's go to this video, and then I'm going to tell you why I'm picking this guy if it wasn't already obvious.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel.
Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Whoa. Gotcha questions aside. Don't you think if you're calling for war with another country, you should study a little? You know, what the population is. The ethnic breakdown is kind of important, and I'll explain that in a minute. You know, how many planes do they have? What are their military capabilities? How many tanks? How many soldiers? Right? Congress has the sole power, according to the Constitution, to declare war. Ted Cruz is a war hawk in this instance. Before I buy a used car, I do some research, right? This guy wants to go to war. Do a little research, dude. Judging by our recent history, like 20 years worth of regime change wars, whether we were directly or indirectly involved, let's name some of them. Iraq. Who's in charge of Iraq now? Iran. Afghanistan. Who's in charge of Afghanistan now? The Taliban. Syria. Al-Qaeda is in charge of there. Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood. The Houthis are running Yemen, right? Don't you think you should do a little more research before you advocate for another regime change war or weapons of mass destruction, preemptive strike on a Middle Eastern country? I think you should. The rest of that interview is terrific for those of you guys who didn't watch the whole thing. It's long, like a long format interview, but he calls out Ted Cruz for supporting the Ukraine war. And Cruz wouldn't admit that he was wrong about that, and he wouldn't apologize. And don't forget, by the way, Ted Cruz called the January 6th protesters terrorists a few years ago. And he went on Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox and got demolished then. I don't know why Ted Cruz went on this interview, right? You could say he was brave or courageous. Ted Cruz is one of our smarter guys.
You know what? And by the way, just to throw this out there, I'm sure you would have gotten to this. In the first 24 hours when that clip was released before the full interview came out, that was seen by over 30 million people. It's like 34 million people that saw that clip in the first 24 hours. So this is on display for everyone to see, right?
Yeah, and I'm just gonna finish that last sentence. If Ted Cruz is one of the smarter people in the Senate, which I do believe he is, like I think Ted Cruz probably should be a Supreme Court justice. But as far as a senator and advocating for foreign policy disaster forever wars, I can't imagine the rest of them. Right? If this is one of our, like we all know Lindsey Graham is a dummy, right? And the Democrats are even dumber than him. But Ted Cruz put on display a show that does not help our side at all, right? That's not America First policy. And throughout the interview with Tucker, he keeps on trying to say he's America First, but he knows nothing about the country he wants to bomb and do regime change in. It's shocking.
And let's be clear, I'm going to push back a little bit here because, me and Ted, we're like this. Ted Cruz is not the person who needs to know the high school level book report about Iran. I think there are people in the State Department that need to know that. There's certainly people in the military that need to know that, who need to understand that. People who are making the strategy. Ted Cruz is none of those people. So that kind of gotcha by Tucker Carlson. He's an independent journalist now. He needs to make news. It is what it is. But Ted Cruz played into his hand, and I think that's where the buffoonery is. And also, we haven't even touched on the sort of breaking news thing that Tucker was going at here when Ted Cruz was so flippantly saying that we are bombing Iran. We are doing this. When the whole thing is that the president hadn't decided, as we're taping this right now, whether or not we would be taking any active involvement in this. It certainly is. I don't know if it was unpreparedness or narcissism, but I get where you're coming from with this. This is newsworthy, and this is a good clip.
And let me just push back on let me push back on one thing real quick, and then I'm done. You mentioned high school level like history book stats. I disagree, man. Like in local politics, if we're gonna try to overthrow a political opponent, we analyze the district, right? This senator, if there was a vote on the floor to go to war with Iran tomorrow in the Senate, he would vote yes. But what research has he done? None, apparently.
Yep. No, I got you. Very interesting pick, my friend. And now, per the rules, it's on me to add the scoring in for this buffoon so you can understand where he ranks in comparison to other buffoons that we have talked about here on the channel. And we do that by putting this buffoon into our Sharpton Buffoonery matrix. And to understand that process, you need to know a little something about the buns and the bams. Let's talk buns.
My buns!
No, not those. And definitely not those. I'm talking about our personal buffoonish nature. A decade of collective observations has shown that everyone, to some degree, has a bun. You, me, everybody. The size of their buns is directly related to a buffoon's propensity to do stupid things.
Look at the size of that thing.
And then there's bam, 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 buffoonish action magnitude. That's our measurement of how big a whoopsie a buffoon made. The bigger the mistake, the greater the magnitude. We then plug these values into our Sharpton Buffoonery matrix, named for the alpha and omega of buffoonery, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Modern problems require modern solutions,
which is our visual representation of a buffoon's bum to bam ratio. And here's the best part. After we tally up the worst offenders, you decide. You get to cast your vote, share your thoughts, and you determine who earns the dubious distinction of Buffoon of the Week, which will record as the weeks go by. All right, listen, I take no pleasure in scoring Ted Cruz on the Sharpton Buffoonery Matrix. I take no pleasure in this because I'm a genuine supporter of him. In general, there are certainly things that have happened in the past where I was disappointed by him. The instance when his family went to Cancun and he went down with them during those really freak winter storms in Texas, and he got called out on that. It made it into my book, and it was one of those moments where it was like a whole lack of self-awareness there that first got him ranked on the Sharpton Buffoonery Matrix. And now I have to come back, and I got to increase it all. As far as his buffoonish nature, Ted Cruz, especially for his opponents, does seem to have a little bit of arrogance and audacity to him. He certainly has an ego. I would put him as an egotist that we talk about in the book. He has ambition, and sometimes that ambition may go a little too far, and he ends up looking bad. That one instance with the storm is one of those things, and this is another one where he's made to look bad. He doesn't get caught a lot in these embarrassing moments or moments that make him look really, really bad. And for that, I got to keep him in the 60s for his buffoonish nature. I'm putting him at a 63. I'm putting him at a 63 for his buffoonish nature. That said, the BAM, the buffoonish action magnitude of this particular action, it's huge. It's gigantic. It's humongous. And it's not because of exactly what it is, but because of the ramifications of what it is to supporters. This would make people who support Ted Cruz not support him anymore. The people that hate him, they hate him already. This is just more fodder to them. This is a sort of buffoonish action that will diminish the standing of a well-respected figure. That's why his own nature is low, but the magnitude on this, it's the biggest we've seen on the show thus far. It's 112.9 Giga Sharpton.
Whoa.
Listen, I got to call. I'm trying to be intellectually honest here. This is something that will make people who normally vote for him not want to vote for him. That's the way I feel about it.
I'm blown away, Gene. I do think it's fair because I'm that guy you're talking about. Like I said, I love Ted Cruz. I love him. I think he should be the next Supreme Court justice if we get another pick. But not being prepared, especially knowing how Tucker Carlson is and his view of the world, right? You got to go in better prepared than that. He just looked unprepared. And Ted Cruz is an excellent litigator. Like when he does those Senate hearings, terrific usually. I was very disappointed. Very.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little shook. Galloway's pick here, pretty gigantic. Pretty big bam, as you saw from my scoring. I'm going to counter this with a buffoon that has an equally titanic bun. I'm picking Ilhan Omar as this week's Buffoon of the Week. Please refrain from any reactions here. I get 2 minutes, sir. I get 2 minutes. Ilhan Omar is perennially a buffoon. You know her as the congresswoman from Minnesota, or should I say the congresswoman from Somalia, because that's what she actually represents. And in reaction to the parade that we saw over the weekend for the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army, an organization that Mr. Galloway is very familiar with, she had this to say about our nation.
To be coming out of our country. I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights, while our president spending millions of dollars propping himself up like a failed dictator with a military parade. It is really shocking, and it should be a wake-up call for all Americans to say this is not the country we were born in. This is not the country we believe in. This is not the country our founding fathers imagined. And this is not the country that is supported by our Constitution, our ideals, our values. And we should all collectively be out in the streets rejecting what is taking place this week.
What does Ilhan Omar know about the values growing up in this country? This country saved her and her family. She says she knows about dictatorships. She came over here when she was younger. I don't know exactly what she knows about, but then she compares this nation to one of the worst countries in the world, saying that we're that low. You gotta be kidding me here. The rhetoric is normal. This is normal rhetoric coming from Ilhan Omar, but this is just beyond peak. Her ignorance of the fact that this was a military parade celebrating our military, not celebrating Donald Trump, even though it happened to coincide with his birthday, it should shock the conscience, but it doesn't shock us from Ilhan Omar, because this is what she does. This is a more egregious example of what Ilhan Omar does in just sowing this division in our country. Everyone needs to get out into the streets over a celebration of our military, our own people who sacrifice themselves every day for us. This is coming from a U.S. Congresswoman. And for this sort of language to come out this way, it shows how ungrateful she is for all the privilege that she's been able to attain in this country. And she wouldn't have been able to attain this anywhere else, not where she came from or any place else in the world. She couldn't have done that, what she does here. And we're allowing her to sow this division and continue to be this divisive force. She's Buffoon of the Week, my friend. You can jump in anytime. I'm literally disgusted with Ilhan Omar in this statement.
Well, I'll lighten the mood. I mean, Gene, true to form, in his take test role, he picked the same type of person. I'm not going to go into that. But this is a classic case of like the dog barks, the cow moos, Ilhan Omar says something outrageously stupid. It really is sad that this statement, as outrageous as it is not more shocking, right? Like, this person is a sitting congresswoman, and like you said, has been given the keys to the kingdom here. In what other country can you immigrate to and then become a part of their government? One of a tiny fraction of the population that rules over us, and then complain and hate on our country.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. This is, sky is blue, grass is green, dog bites man, all the usual news stories. Ilhan Omar hates America. I get it. But I really think we can't be complacent to this anymore.
I agree with you.
And that's really what I'm trying to do here. I'm sure this isn't going to get a high BAM. This is a drop in the bucket for Ilhan Omar. I get that. But my God, why is something like this just a drop in the bucket for a multiple member of Congress to spew out there? And why are we tolerating it? I can understand the shock value of a Ted Cruz saying what he did and it causing the uproar that we're seeing. But this just goes under the radar, unnoticed. It was on Democracy Now! So she's talking to a whole audience that thinks the same way as her. And it's just emblematic of this anti-American view that we're seeing from Democrats, starting with Michelle Obama saying that she was never proud to be an American, going on down into Ilhan Omar now.
Yeah, and I know it's cliche to say, like, if you don't love it here, leave. But like, I hated New York and I left. But for an immigrant to come here and then do nothing but shit on our country, like, go back to your country.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
I agree. She's a cocky, duty, poopy head, and I know that you claim her as one of your own. So she's Buffoon of the Week for me.
All right, Gene, I know you thought my pick was like great, but you went to like an old faithful, man. She is a turd, right? I can't say enough bad things about this person. I despise her more than she hates our country. I hate her.
We went 5 minutes without even mentioning the Squad, by the way. That was pretty impressive.
Yes. She's a member of the Squad. The Squad is destroying the Democratic Party. But like an AOC, as dumb as she is, she's kind of like harmless in a lot of ways. This one hates our country and is allied with foreign entities, right? Like,
I get what you're saying. AOC has become a little more mainstreamed
and clownish.
Yeah.
So, as even though it's not shocking, that speaks to her bun, right? That this is her nature. I've never heard her say anything where I was like, oh well, that seemed reasonable, right? She's just nuts. So I'm gonna give her a pretty good bun. I'm thinking 81.
Wow, we broke
81. She's up there in the top of the pack, man. She's an 81. Now, as far as Sharpton-esque on the magnitude, what she said, if you wanted AI to put a picture of Al Sharpton up, he would say those same stupid things. Like, Al Sharpton is dumb like she is. They say things that are very anti-United States and anti-people like me and you. So I think her magnitude is pretty high too. We can't just say, well, oh, she always says dumb things, so this is not that big of a deal. Like, no, since when is it okay for a sitting congressman to hate our country? Not like disagree with things we do, but to literally hate it, right? So I'm going to go with 46.1 gigasharptons because she is up there. And I have a feeling, Gene, we're going to revisit this score at some point, and it's only going to go up.
Can I just ask, is there any military bias on your part for that score?
Yeah. So I said in a previous show, like, I usually don't insert that in there, my own personal feelings, but she literally was crapping on the parade for the Army's 250th anniversary. The United States Army is older than the country, and she was poo-pooing on that parade with her hate, right? So that's why she's so high, and I think she's going to go higher when we revisit these again.
Well, we've made our cases, and it's time for some closing arguments here. We each get a minute to beg, plead, grovel, bribe, do whatever we got to do to get you to vote for our choice for Buffoon of the Week. Because I allowed Ross to go first, and I had the choice, he gets to go first in these final arguments. The floor is yours, pal.
And go.
All right. Thank you, brother. I know a lot of you people watching are big Ted Cruz fans, as am I. And I went out on a limb and I picked this guy. And I'm just going to give you 3 quick reasons why and why I think you should vote for my pick this week. Number 1, back in the day, he called the January 6th protesters terrorists. He got called out by the same man, Tucker Carlson, for doing that. We kill terrorists, right? And that's what Ted Cruz called my people that were protesting on January 6th. Number 2, he's calling for another regime change war over weapons of mass destruction in a country that happens to neighbor Iraq, a 20-year debacle that we just got out of not long ago. And number 3, Ted Cruz's father may have actually had lunch with Lee Harvey Oswald right before he killed JFK. Now, if that doesn't qualify him for Buffoon of the Week, I don't know what does. I'm done.
All right. That's I can't believe he went there, but okay. Hey, at least you didn't call him a serial killer.
Okay, your turn.
Ross Galloway is a multiple-time 11th commandment breaker. It is what it is. He's a self-hating Republican, and I pray for him every week. I really do. And while I certainly disagree with what Ted Cruz did, and to some extent I disagree with Tucker Carlson in the way that he handled it as well, sort of turning it into a circular firing squad for Republicans and conservatives, we need to keep our eye on the ball. And that is looking for real political buffoons doing real political buffoonishly things. And that's Ilhan Omar here. Now, we said earlier, this is all like, yeah, the sky is blue, grass is green, dog bites man. I get that. But that just shows our complacency. And as buffoonologists, we need to fight that complacency and call out buffoonery where we see it, even if it's commonplace from a commonplace buffoon. Choose Ilhan Omar. So with that, my friend, the polls are now open. You can vote on YouTube in the comments here under this video. You can vote in our YouTube poll, which is under our community tab. You can go on X, again, to my X account, which will be linked in the comments. You can also go to buffoonoftheweek.com and vote in our poll there. And over there, it's vote early, vote often. You can vote as many times as you want. Nobody is going to be counting or looking at your ID or your IP address or anything like that. So there you go. Have fun voting for Buffoon of the Week. You know, pal, you mentioned like Al Sharpton and all things. We need to create an AI Al Sharpton. I think that would be the best. Just imagine an AI Al Sharpton with the long hair and the gold chains and the tracks.
Or I was just saying a little tribute video, very short, of him through the years with the jumpsuit and the chain.
That'd be great. I'll get to work on it right away.
Oh, man.